In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, James and I, we are going to share our thoughts on some sleepers, guys that you probably haven't seen on mainstream mocks. Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my brother, James Barlowe. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, the Locked On NBA Big Boy YouTube channel, that is, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because we're coming at you at least 5 days a week. And also, the Locked On Network has a newsletter. The Locked On NBA Network has a newsletter. It is a one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage for your favorite team. The trade deadline is tomorrow, so there is a lot of moving parts and information coming out. I know I've been refreshing my phone, even though I have the notifications on, but I'm just looking to see like who gets moved. And the trade deadline is one of my favorite days of the year. And it also, I think, is like the real unofficial start to draft season in a sense, because that's when you know when teams have decided to punt the season. And then I think that's when some fans are really starting to look at draft boards and try to think, all right, which guy can help our team next year, because we got this new pick that we traded, so on and so on. So definitely looking forward to what happens tomorrow. But this episode, we're going to talk about some sleepers, some deep sleepers, some guys that you probably haven't heard of. I know this is probably not going to be one of the more popular episodes where we're talking about like Cooper Flag and Ace Bailey. I mean, those episodes, you know, they get the algorithm moving, but we're going to talk about some sleepers. All right, James, when you are looking for sleepers, like what is your philosophy?
Well, first, I like looking for sleepers more than I do looking at the normal guys. It almost gets to a point where this part of the season is like, in most cases, you see a guy, you've been watching him for a while, and it's more of the same of what he does do or doesn't do well. Now, there are examples like Cooper Flag obviously improved as a shooter, and there are other guys too. But I like talking about the sleepers. I understand that we got to talk about the guys we got to talk about, but this is fun. My method for finding the sleepers, Ralph, is I will get on Bart Tovik, but I get on Bart Tovik with the mindset of I'm looking for a particular role player in the NBA. I'm looking at his college numbers, and I'm trying to find something that's similar to that similar style player. So my thinking was I need to find a Josh Hart type. I need to find a Tumani Kamara type. I need to find a Alex Caruso type player, an Austin Reeves type player. So that's what I do. And then from there, I take that and then I go on Synergy because I got to make sure the video matches the numbers. Sometimes numbers lie. Unfortunately, I can't be looking at a 5'10", shooting guard. I mean, like that's just not going to translate. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I have a different philosophy. A lot of it is just watching games, and then I pull up some data. Like for me, I really like guys that can score in the two most efficient zones on the floor, which is in the paint and shooting threes. And I mean, I'm an eye test guy first, and when I'm looking for sleepers, it's reverse. I'm pulling up some data, and then I'll go watch a lot of film. And sometimes the numbers don't match. Sometimes a guy can look great on paper, but then when you watch the film, you're like, nah, because the numbers don't tell you if a guy has burst or not. The numbers aren't going to tell you if the guy has vertical pop. The numbers don't tell you if the guy can't handle it. So I watch film. But the thing about like these episodes, before we get into it, is that I feel like being a draft analyst / content creator is like being an artist, right? It's like being a rapper, how I look at it. And sometimes you want to put out your mixtape, and this episode is like a mixtape where you just spit your stuff. But at the end of the day, the label may want you to be commercial. They may want a radio-friendly hit that the people dance to in the club with a catchy hook that everybody remembers. And to me, that's when you talk about like Cooper Flag and Ace Bailey. Those are your radio-friendly hits. And even though sometimes, it may not be intended to be a hit, but the sleepers, talking about the international prospects, these are like the mixtapes. These are the episodes that may not be as popular that I enjoy talking about. But anyway, I want to start off with a guy that caught my attention playing against Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. And it is Adrian Woolley. Shout out to Norrin Rad, guy that is a big, big supporter of the podcast. He's a big fan of Adrian Woolley, so wanted to give him a shout out. He's always in the comments. But Adrian Woolley is a player that, again, caught my attention against Rutgers earlier this year. Adrian Woolley is a freshman, 6'5" guard at Kennesaw State. They played Rutgers. They played Rutgers right before Rutgers had their first big tests in like one of those Thanksgiving tournaments. I think it was right before they played Notre Dame and Alabama. They ended up beating Rutgers, which at the time,
was a big deal.
Rutgers was ranked. Woolley had 10 points. It wasn't a crazy game, but he had 10 points, 7 assists, 3 steals. He was 5 of 9 from the floor, but it was his ability to get to his spots that caught my attention. So I've been tracking him ever since. So far this season, he's averaging 18 points, 4.9 rebounds, 3.3 assists. But check this out. Shooting 51% from the floor, 38% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. And he's also getting to the foul line 5 times per game. What I like about Adrian Woolley is he gets buckets, but he has a unique body control. He can shoot off the catch. He is an aggressive slasher, gets in the paint, and when he gets in the paint, he's finishing at the rim. And he has the ability to get 2 feet in the paint, draw defenders. He's either going to score, get fouled, and I think he's a good enough passer to where he's able to create scoring opportunities for others. He scores in transition. He makes pull-up jumpers. He shoots the 3. If there was a concern that I have is that he does turn the ball over 3.4 times per game. So the assist to turnover ratio is actually below water. It's just give or take like a turnover or 2. But I like the upside. I think once he figures it out, I don't know if he's a point or a combo, but Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State is one of my favorite sleepers.
All right. I'm next up. Listeners, viewers, get your pen and your pad out. I'm about to drop a gem on you, as my man Young Thug would say. You know about that Young Thug, Ralph. All right. 6'8" Will Sydnor from Manhattan. All right. Freshman. 15 points per game, 7 rebounds, 1.2 assists. Shooting 37% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. You writing this down? I see you writing, Ralph.
No, I had notes on him. I actually had notes on him. I know who he is.
The free throw percentage is wildly concerning, being that he's a 59% free throw shooter. But he's averaging 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, and he has a 26% usage rate. He is also shooting 39% on dribble jumpers. So 6'8", 3'4" kind of guy. He can relocate off of teammate drives. He's a good athlete. He's physical. He has long arms. I didn't get a tape measure out. I'm sorry. But he has offensive creativity, and he can put the ball on the ground. He is most likely a transfer up kind of guy, because you got to think that the money, once the computers start computing, he's going to make some money in the portal next year. But at 6'8", catch and shoot, can put the ball on the ground, good athlete, shot blocking potential. I think Will Sydnor is a name that you should monitor in the future.
Yeah, he was actually a player that I did some research on him before
I said something?
Before this. Like when you said the name, when you told me the name before, I was like, that sounds familiar. And then once you started describing him, I remembered him. It was something about him that I thought, if I'm not mistaken, he came up on my list because, like I said, I pull up guys that could score in the most efficient zones on the floor. And I think he came up on my list because he was shooting threes at a high clip and he had enough dunks. So he had threes and dunks. But it was something when I watched him, and I think it was the free throw rate. And I was like, I don't know if the 3-point percentage is real. But then I'm like, he's shooting at a high volume.
Right. I have no idea why he's a 59% free throw shooter. Maybe his controller's vibrating too much when he's at the line. But if you're shooting 39% off the dribble, you have very good touch. Like, I just don't know why he can't shoot free throws. So that's my biggest knock on him. But I think he's a good enough athlete for him to be a floor spacer, catch and shoot guy, attack and closeout guy. So
if I'm not mistaken, and I've watched probably a gazillion guys this year, if I'm not mistaken, when I watched him, I felt like he looked like a guy that was a natural four. If he looked like, was he the guy that had, like, he knew what he was doing on the block in the post? Am I mistaken?
He does post up, but they play him at the four, like dribble handoff, pick and pop a lot too. And that's where he has his best mismatch because he can handle the ball a little bit. He's almost like, what's homie's name from Colorado that had the headband that played for the Knicks about 10 years ago? I just had always draw a blank. Played for the Knicks. He went to Colorado. Played for the Bucks. You know what I'm talking about.
He's always playing at the runs in LA.
He's always, and he gets buckets. Chris
Copeland.
Yeah, he reminds me of Chris Copeland.
He had a quick stint where he got buckets and then he was out of there.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk about a few more prospects. And one of the prospects that I really believe is a major sleeper is Jacksen Moni. Stay tuned to hear my thoughts on Moni. All right, before we get into the second segment, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is Game Time. Are you looking for tickets for your next big event, whether it is a concert, a comedy show, or an NBA game? You can find the best tickets at Game Time, and finding a ticket at the right price can actually be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it has never been easier. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. And the best part is when you get a ticket on Game Time, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I want to talk about Jacksen Moni. I wrote about Moni last week in an article on my NBA Big Board newsletter, and he is definitely a hidden gem, but he's starting to get some buzz now, and rightfully so. I mean, when you look at what he's done this season, I mean, he's put up good numbers, but he has a crazy story. My man was like playing Division II basketball last year. And he goes from Division II, where he was, he was an All-American. I mean, he had numbers at his Division II school, transfers up, and the numbers are even better. He's at North Dakota State, 6'10", 235. He's averaging, check these numbers out, James, 19.8 points, 5.4 rebounds, 3.8 assists. He's shooting 51% from the floor, but also he's also shooting 41% from three on 5 attempts per game, 85% from the foul line on 5 free throw attempts per game. And he's a player that just really caught my attention. At 6'10", he leads his team in assists. He can create off the dribble, but when I say create off the dribble, I'm not talking like he's got like this face-up handle where he's shooting step backs and he's like an isolation scorer. It's just like he's backing you down and he's comfortable putting the ball on the floor, but he's efficient. He's a pick and pop threat. He can score in the post. He's got soft touch around the rim. He leads his team in assists. He can pass. He can be like a ball mover, but he can also be a playmaker. He hits cutters. He draws double teams. He makes good reads. But the concern I have for him is he is not an NBA level athlete, and his defensive accounting stats aren't good. And at 6'10", he's averaging just 5.4 rebounds per game. But he's averaging, I mean, if you combine his stocks, it's like 1.5 blocks, 0.5 steals. So analytically, he's not going to check out on the defensive end. But guys that are 6'10", that can shoot and pass, I think there is a room for him somewhere in the NBA. When I think of a comparison, it was Evan Mobley's brother. Not like a really good athlete, but skilled. And, Isaiah's a fringe player. I mean, I think he's on a two-way. I think he's had, a couple of he can hoop. But that is my comparison for Jacksen Moni.
Speaking of, okay, so I'm going to go in the opposite direction of you. This defensive stats. All right? Let me tell you again. Get your pens out. Screenshot this, whatever. Let me tell you about Hayden Gray, from UC San Diego. Not San Diego University, but UC San Diego. 6'4", sophomore, 11 points. That's probably not going to wow you. Okay. 3 rebounds, 3 assists. That's not going to wow you. That's fine. All right. He is shooting on 4 3-point attempts per game, shooting 41% from 3. But let me wow you. We talking about defensive stats, Raf. 3.4 steals per game. He is a cookie machine, playing the passing lanes like a DB. And Raf, he will pick your pocket. And again, I get it. The offense he's more of a shooting guard. He's really good in transition, but I think he's a good athlete. Slithery like, and I'm not saying he's his level player, but he's slithery like Ginobili, where he finds his way to the basket, especially in transition. The slashing ability is definitely there. Like I said, active in transition, and he can shoot off the catch, but also movement threes, not off the dribble, but again, relocation, dribble handoff. I think that it's really like 3.4 steals per game at 6'4" is crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. No matter 3.4 steals per game.
Yes, and the film checks out, Ralph. Like he's not getting gifted steals like Jordan was in '88. Like these are real life steals, man. Like he jumped off the screen. Hayden Gray.
Yeah, you got me on this one. Never heard of homie, but 3.4 steals. It sounds like you think you done found you a Caruso. 6'4".
Listen, man, and he fits the complexion test for Caruso. That wasn't my aim, but that's what I was looking for. Like, I want to find the guys that get slept on, that make money. You be like, man, how did we miss on him? So Hayden Gray, UC San Diego. I see you, my man.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with him, but just based off of what you told me, and I have to do some research. You're saying 6'4",
yes,
3.5 steals per game,
yes,
but he is shooting 41% from 3.
And he's a good athlete with slashing ability, like get out in transition and run.
Is he getting steals like what I call Iverson steals? Like Iverson,
it's a lot of AI steals, but he is ball hawking too. So
okay,
he's on the ball, he's ripping people like a 3.4. Even if he's getting 1 on the ball steal a game.
Yeah,
getting 2 passing lane steals is crazy. And he's on a good team too.
When I think of Iverson steals, I'm thinking back when Iverson could just gamble the passing lanes. Yeah, he may have missed 5 times a game and he may have got 2 right. But when he had Mutombo, rest in peace, behind him and a packed lane because guys weren't spacing the floor back then, he could gamble on those steals. But I'm going to have to check out Hayden Gray. All right, up next, we have a few more prospects to talk about. I'm going to go down to the NOLA. I'm going down to New Orleans because I got a prospect named Kam Williams that I think is going to draw major buzz. Well, I've heard he's got some NBA teams that really like him. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags that we should avoid, but what if we focus more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships? Those green flags. If you are not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody the green flag within yourself. So, whether you are dating, whether you are married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that you love back. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do that at no extra cost. So you can discover the relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba for 10% off your first month. That is better, HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right, last segment. Kam Williams, 6'8", 190-pound freshman from Tulane, from Lafayette, Louisiana. I wrote about him on my NBA Big Board newsletter. Was a 4-star recruit. The numbers aren't going to wow you. 9.4 points, 4.3 rebounds, 1.5 assists. But he's shooting 46% from the floor and 41% from three on 4.8 attempts per game. But this is where the intrigue begins. Outside of the positional size and the shooting, he's averaging 1 block a game and 1.8 steals per game. So when you are thinking about the modern NBA and you're thinking about complementary 3-and-D wings, he fits the bill. Again, positional size, 41% from three on rounded up to 5 attempts per game, but he's getting you 2.8 stocks per game. Not a guy that's going to put up, he doesn't have huge numbers, and maybe he can't. I will say I think he does need to be a little bit more aggressive and assertive. I mean, I've heard there's some teams that like him, but I think that he is a player that will test the waters, and I think he's going to get some buzz and good feedback. Again, 3-and-D wing, effortless stroke. He is absolutely money in the corner. Show some glimpses of being able to attack closeouts and get to the rim on straight line drives. Good transition finisher. Not a big sample size, but like when he cuts to the basket, he's been an efficient scorer as an off the ball mover. But again, I'd say he just needs to be a little bit more assertive. So Kam Williams is a name to remember.
Okay. I'm up next again here. Let me write that down. Kam Williams.
Kam Williams.
I just wonder, how does this, especially with the Jacksen Moni guy, like how does a 6'10" guy, no disrespect to D2, but how does a 6'10" guy with all that talent end up there? Is it a late growth spurt? Was he not playing on a circuit? Like, how does that work?
He was like Division II.
And then like Kam, 6'8" shooter, like how does, no disrespect.
He was a 4-star recruit.
Okay.
But yeah, Jacksen Moni was at Northern State for 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
All right. So let me get to my final sleeper. I think I've mentioned him before, but I don't care. I'll mention him again. I'm going to show some love to the local Cruz Davis. Cruz Davis, 6'4" junior at Hofstra, playing for one Speedy Claxton, 6'3", Hofstra, well-traveled. Cruz Davis started off at Iona, followed Patino to St. John's. Now he's at Hofstra. He's averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists per game, and he is shooting 39% from 3 on 4 attempts per game, and 1.4 steals. If I could describe Cruz to you, if you've never seen Cruz play, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to squint, and I want you to see store brand De'Aaron Fox. As far as skinny lefty, super quick, always getting to the paint. I'm a big believer in Cruz's game. I've known Cruz since he was a little dude, and he's grown so much. He went from a guy that was probably just, I hope his dad doesn't get mad, but he was a shooter, and he's like really evolved into a point guard. And I don't know what his plans are for this year. He's playing a lot of minutes for Speedy Claxton at Hofstra, but he is, if not a portal guy, he is somebody that you can see a few years down the line getting an opportunity on a two-way. Because again, his ability to handle the ball, shoot off the dribble, and create plays and get into the paint is what the NBA is looking for. He's a bit on the skinny side, but like I said, if you get a chance to look at some of the film, he looks and plays just like De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, what's funny about Cruz is I used to film his games when he was in like third or fourth grade. He was on the same team as Cason Wallace. He was the point guard, and I knew he was going to be good then. Like, he was really, really good at such a young age. He was very advanced. And then he just went through this stage where he was like a late bloomer as far as like a growth spurt. Like, he was small. Everybody like passed him up. He went to high school. He went to a few different high schools, but he went to high school and he was teammates with Keonte George. And I remember just seeing him in high school, and he was good, but I didn't see where he's at today. But he caught his growth spurt, and he's a late bloomer. It's like he was an early bloomer, and then he just had this stage in the middle where he was good, but some people passed him just because they grew faster.
I want to say he played at South Garland with Tyrese.
Yeah, he played
as a freshman.
He played at South Garland with Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah,
so, I mean, he shared the backcourt with Tyrese Maxey and Keonte George
and Cason
and Cason Wallace. Yeah, so he knows how to be a complimentary player. And then even when he was at St. John's, he didn't play a lot, and he actually had a foot injury, but he's playing behind Dennis Jenkins, who was on a two-way with the Detroit Pistons. But Cruz has been probably one of the best breakout players this year. I mean, you talk about a guy last year at St. John's, he only played 4 games, averaged 1.8 points. He showed some flashes as a freshman with Iona. I think he had a foot injury, and then he came back and he played on their tournament team, followed Rick Pitino from Iona to St. John's, decided to go to Hofstra, and he is having a breakout year. But the intrigue with Cruz is the speed, the shooting, and the passing. I love guys that get in the paint. He's averaging 4.5 free throw attempts per game. So little known fact, Cruz is the cousin of Johnny Davis.
I knew that, but
all right. The next player I want to talk about, and this is one of my favorite sleepers. I feel like I dug in the trenches.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Keonte Jones from Cal State Northridge. Remember that name, Keonte Jones. Hold on.
Let me pull up the Googles right now. Okay, go ahead.
Keonte Jones is like, how can I say this? Like, we all have prospects or players whose game is aesthetically pleasing to us. Like, there's like basketball players and then there's hoopers. We've seen that debate. Keonte Jones, to me, is a hooper. He's one of these guys that you can't define by a position. He's just a ball player. The numbers, 12.6 points, 9.2 rebounds, 4 assists per game.
Hold on, Ralph. You didn't tell me how tall he is. So if you told me he was averaging 12, 9, and 4, I'm looking for a 6'10", 6'11" dude that can pass out the double team.
Yeah, no. Yeah, the numbers, 12.6 points, 9.2 rebounds, 4 assists, sound like a low post hub, but no, he's a 6'6", just basketball player. I don't know what position he plays. Sometimes he may be playing the 4. Sometimes he's initiating the offense, but he's shooting 49.7% from the floor, 47.8% from 3, but 65% from the foul line. Now, I will say the 47.8% from 3 is on 1 attempt per game. Not a heavy volume. But, like, how do you shoot almost 50% from 3 and just like, nah, I'm only taking 1 of those? Like, the shot looks, he's making them. Low volume, but he's shooting 65% from the foul line. So I would say, the percentage is somewhere in the middle. He shot 33% from 3 the year before. JUCO product, gets to the foul line 5 times per game. Bouncy athlete. Like, talk about live body, the epitome of a live body energy guy. I mean, 9 rebounds a game at 6'6".
How is he blocking shots too?
And he's averaging, I didn't even get to that man yet. He's
My
averaging
fault.
1.4 blocks and 1.9 steals per game. How does an athlete that's averaging 12, 9, 4, and 1, like, what is that? 3.3 stocks per game or something like that?
Yeah.
Which is still crazy that your man is averaging
3.4
steals per game. But Keonte Jones, athlete, stat sheet stuffer, rim protector, playing the passing lanes, highlight reel finisher. Sometimes is playing the point guard. Maybe a little bit of Darian Sebron in his game, as far as just a unique prospect, which could help him or it could hurt him because he's not.
Right. What about Jacksen Tate? Because he had a moment. He still plays for the Rockets somehow. I feel like he's been playing for the Rockets. He played with Harden. Yeah. So what about Jacksen Tate? Because he was one of the first Draymond disciples where we like, all right, I don't know what position this dude plays, but he's a basketball player.
And it hurt Jacksen Tate. I mean, he had to go through Belgium to get to the NBA. Like Belgium is not a league where guys producing high-level players. He went through Belgium. I think he went through the NBL in Australia. But I could see that. Like guys like that you may not be able to box into 3-and-D wing, volume score, low post hub, vertical lob threat that fit into this gray area. Sometimes it really hurts them. And with Keonte, he's a player that it's weird because I think like you bring him in for workouts. Yeah, he's going to be able to like wow you with the athleticism. He's going to be windmilling from the inside the free throw line. But he's a player that probably you won't get a full sense, at least from an NBA team perspective, of what he can do until you put him in 5-on-5. And then like that means you got to put him on your summer league roster. But he's a player that is very intriguing to me. He's a senior, so he's not like young like Kam Williams. I know Jacksen Moni was also a senior. Adrian Woolley probably has a high upside because he's a freshman. But Keonte Jones,
I'm gonna check him out, man, for sure.
The trenches again, 6'6", 192, averaging 9 boards, 4 assists. Like again, you said it perfectly. If I just read out the stats to you. And you think 9 rebounds a game, 1.4 blocks, you probably like, hey, this probably some skinny rim protector, athletic vertical lob threat. Nah, my man is 6'6", and he's playing point, initiating the offense. The knock on him is that he's shooting the ball well, but he's definitely going to pass up open looks to get down here and get to the paint. But I mean, the 47% from 3 is encouraging.
Yeah. Definitely about to check this film out when we get done.
Check it out. All right, we're going to have to do another one of these because I know I got some more sleepers. I know you have some more sleepers. So we'll call this Deep Sleepers Part 1. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Maybe your second and maybe your third listen. Maybe you listened to it a few days behind, but thank you for the support. Check out the Locked On newsletter at lockedondaily.com and also subscribe for more Deep Sleepers. Once again, it's Rafael and James, and we are out of here.